Hey everyone, this is a chat between two students who have just graduated on how we broke into venture, how we navigated venture, how we got internships, how we networked into internships, and as a whole, like how we're figuring out post-grad life. So,
Do you think people that are more thick-skinned are innately better performers because they can handle pressure both internally and externally?
Yeah, I
In a
agree.
sense, wouldn't a high-pressure environment selectively filter out people that have qualities that are less conducive at work?
I don't think high pressure environment equals like a company's success.
Yeah,
I think it could equal success, but also could not.
yeah,
But I do think people who are more thick skinned slash resilient perform better overall.
yeah,
And I think you need that in employee.
yeah,
Especially like teams are getting a lot more lean now. I think
yeah.
you need to be very strategic of who's
Mhm.
on your team and who you want to hire.
Do you think coming out of college, it's better to be in a more intense environment or a more lax environment? Would you rather be in an environment after you graduate 5 days a week or fully remote?
I think that's a hard question. That's
Yeah.
honestly something I'm wrestling with. It's like, will you rather be all remote, do nomad life and travel and not advance your career for a couple of years? I think that's what a lot of people are thinking about. Do you want to advance your career and be in the high pressure environment like private equity, IB in New York and grind for those few years? Or do you want to travel the world and take a remote job and work 5 hours a day?
Which direction are you leaning towards? Completely split. I feel like you're leaning towards one direction, slightly.
I think I want the best of both worlds. I think I want to travel 3 months after grad and
Yeah.
get that out of my system. But I do think that if you want to advance your career, I would rather do it right after college.
I think that would dampen your spirits in the sense that you would have a sense of invisible golden handcuffs. Once you have a prestigious role, or once you have a role that is well sought after, would that dampen your spirits from pursuing other opportunities?
Well, I think my idea of advancing my career is still like passion over prestige in a way where it's like I hope I would be working on something that I am passionate about and it's
Yeah.
not something that is just a filler, just something
Yeah.
that feeds my ego, but also like feeds like another part of me. Like I would want it to be both, and that's very idealistic. But I'm just hoping
Do you think there
it
are
works
corporate
out.
environments that can feed your passion?
I think it can. I think it depends on the company culture
Yeah.
and if you feel like your work is meaningful. It's very easy to get lost in all the employees seeing
Yeah.
your work actually being visualized. I think it all depends on the company. It would need to be meaningful. For example, would you work for a cigarettes company? Would that be meaningful work?
Yeah.
Trying to boost your sales,
Yeah.
advertising something harmful to society. That could make you a lot of money, but would that be fulfilling
Yeah.
on a more
Do you
personal
think
level?
people work in more general firms like a consulting firm and an advisory firm or a tech firm? Do you think that would be passion draining or people can have passions in those firms as well?
I think people can have passions in those firms as well. I have a friend who's going into private equity at
Mm.
BlackRock, and
Yeah.
her number one goal in life is just to be really rich. That's all she wants out of life. Insanely rich.
Yeah.
You'll ask her what her passion, her dream is. Her
Yeah.
dream is just to be the most rich ever. So she'll go down the path that's like that.
Why does she want to be the most rich ever?
I think the reason why is
Can't you have autonomy, like being somewhat wealthy? Do you think there's a certain level that getting more wealth does not give you more autonomy?
I think getting more wealth does equal more autonomy. In a
Mm.
sense, you'll have more choices.
Yeah.
And it's like one less thing to worry about. But
Yeah.
I will agree that wealth doesn't equal happiness. If you're equating like autonomy equals happiness, then
Yeah.
in that
Mm.
sense,
Yeah.
I will say like, if you have more wealth, you'll have less things to worry about. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're 100% happy.
I just like poked my finger for like a second. I was like, what the heck?
What about you? Where would you lean towards after grad?
I think traveling has a lot of value that you can't articulate. I think whenever you move to a different spot, there's so much invisible growth, whether that's a new city or opportunity or new people. You get so much exposure that you can't normally get. when I think about staying in Boston or staying in a city that I'm familiar with, it makes me really happy, but also bittersweet because I know that if I stay with my friends, I would love to hang out every day, hang out every weekend, and make plans to grow together. But it sounds weird, but it's true. Some of my friends are so fun to be around. They're so inspiring, and it would be great to be with them. I mean, not every day, but multiple times a month. But I almost feel that would narrow my vision because my perception would be so skewed in where I live. My ideas and beliefs in the world would become more narrow. My understanding of the world would become more selected because I would gain more experiences like Boston. And my idea of the world would be really structured on the people in Boston. So that's why I think I would definitely have a lot of value moving to the city, both in the US and abroad. When I think about cultures abroad, I've studied abroad, been on different trips, but to work abroad would give me so much more skills and be able to be unleashed in a way where I can execute on things that I would be hesitant of or feel constrained in the US or in an area where I'm so comfortable with. Like, I feel like it's an opportunity to fully reset and flourish. And it doesn't have to be abroad, but because I think I'm pretty comfortable, I've been to a lot of states and cities already. I think abroad would be my next opportunity that would completely challenge my beliefs and perspective of the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think this would be our only time to do that because we have nothing tying us down. We have no family, no husband or wife,
Yeah.
where you're able to travel,
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
But do you think you have pressures to get a job as soon as possible? Or do your family or friends have either direct pressure or like indirect pressure to lock yourself into a position or a certain role?
I think the fact that we live in the era of social media and LinkedIn, I think it's very easy to like doubt yourself and get imposter syndrome when
Yeah.
people are getting cushy, safe jobs.
Mm.
If you try to pave your own path away, it's a little bit more ambiguous, open-ended, and no safety net. You can start, am I really made for this life? Should I just get a really good job,
Yeah.
move to a city with
Yeah.
all my friends, go to New York and hang out with the same
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Or should I try to figure something on my own?
Mm.
So I think there's that aspect to it where you pressure from your friends who are also getting, and then also the family aspect. I feel like my dad just wants me to do my master's. I don't know why, but he wants me to keep studying. But I feel like I don't really get a whole lot of pressure from my parents on that side, just because I think that they're very preoccupied with my little brother. So I feel like it's like the
Is he
middle
applying
child.
to college or
My
what's he
little
doing?
brother is like,
Oh,
so he's like a
what?
full-time job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I feel like it's like the sense of being a middle child in a way where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, my older brother is working, I'm the only girl, and my little brother is a full-time job.
Yeah.
I can see that there is a lot of pressure in the social aspect of things. And
Yeah.
like friends are always just pressuring you to be like, oh, just come to the city and work, we'll have so much fun and stuff like that. And it is
Yeah.
hard not to get FOMO
Yeah.
because it's like, wait, I want to do my own thing, but look how much fun they're having.
Mm.
Especially when you're moving to a new city or country,
Yeah.
it is that uneasiness of like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know anyone there, and you go on social media and you see how much fun your friends are having at home. So it's also that aspect.
Why do you think your parents want you to get a master's degree? And do you think a master's degree is useful?
I don't know why my dad wants me to get a master's degree. I feel like he wants the prestige of it almost. Like I think he likes flexing to his
Does he have a
friends.
master's degree? Is he a PhD right now?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like he likes flexing about his children. I feel like that's a lot with like Asian parents.
You post this?
Like, why?
Your dad likes flexing? Nah, it's
Yeah.
fine, it's fine.
He likes bragging. I think a lot of parents like bragging about what their children have done or accomplished.
Yeah.
And also the entrepreneurship route or the travel route is something you want to brag about. Like, oh yeah, my kid is traveling to a second world country and doing X, Y,
But
and Z.
is that something worth bragging about? Or like, my kid can't find a job, so he's traveling?
Yes.
It's like a positive or
No,
negative?
it's a negative. I meant like
Yeah.
he can't brag.
Oh.
He won't brag about it, but like he'll
Yeah.
brag about like, oh, my daughter got into like a master's business program, blah, blah, blah. It
Yeah.
sounds a lot better than being like, oh, she's
Yeah.
trying to start this thing. It could sound really bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's why my dad wants me to do a master's. And I don't think it's relevant. I think you would need to know if you were even going to pursue the field. Like how
Yeah.
can you know after undergrad before you even work in
Yeah.
that field if you wanted to pursue a master's?
Yeah, I agree. I almost feel those masters are not that useful when I think of a master's, I immediately jump to computer science. That's the master's that gets talked about a lot around my friends. I see many of my friends doing computer science masters, but it's not because they want to pursue higher education. So my perspective is, while it is useful to a certain extent, the more time you wait, the less valuable a master's degree in a technical field becomes.
I feel like I would only do a master's if I wanted to tap into a different community.
Yeah.
Like there's benefits of getting a master's in a certain school, like MIT, for example. You're able to qualify for the fund they have. So if you want to be a founder, you can always pitch and they'll give you like 50 grand or something. You're able to qualify for that pool. Or tap into the MIT community, like the alumni.
Oh, do you think a master's is easier to get into than an MBA?
I don't know the stats on it. I know you have the GMAT or the GRE.
Yeah, I think that's for the MBA. But I'm not sure what you need for the master's.
It might be the GMAT.
GMAT?
I have friends studying for that, but
Yeah.
I think it depends on the school almost.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
you're talking about how we met
Oh yeah.
in this
How
building.
do we first meet?
From my perspective,
What? You want me to explain? Wait,
no.
you got it.
It was like a venture fellow get together. So random. One of
Yeah.
the organizers PM'd me on LinkedIn and was like, "Oh, you should go."
Really? Did you know him beforehand?
No.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, sure." And then I was like, "Oh, could be fun." It was on
Wow.
Luma.
Wow.
I showed up, and then I remember one I was like, "Oh, call me, the door doesn't work." And then I called them, and they're like, "Oh, Laura," and I was like, "I've never met them before."
Yeah.
I saved all the contacts and everything. And
That's so professional.
yeah, and then you
Did I open the door?
put
I went
the elevator.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, he sent me up the elevator, and then we played code names that night, and then we just chatted. These are both from Northeastern.
It was a group of like 12, 13 people.
Like a small group.
It was a group of supposedly undergrad and venture and also founders, but there was only one founder and he was undercover. So we had to
Yeah.
dang. That was the Roxanne girl because she had found her on LinkedIn. So I thought they were referencing her, but she was also an investor.
That was a fun night. And then we grabbed coffee, and then we stayed friends after that.
Yeah, actually, I met up with a lot of other people afterwards, undergrad, venture fellow, intern, or
Which ones from
I
the?
did.
You forget? There weren't any people there.
I forget their name. But we met up. I remember what we talked about. I know what they look like, but
Fair. Did it
Yes,
really happen if you forget their
yes.
names?
happened. Like I remember all about them. Just like no, I'm just really bad at names.
Yeah.
Would you recommend students to get into venture?
I think it really tests your skills on a more social aspects of things.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think venture is a very high barrier industry, so it really will test your skills of events and talking to people. If you don't have a traditional financial IB private
Yeah.
equity background, it is harder to get your way
Yeah.
through the door. But being able to put your sights on something, being proactive about it, having an action plan, and knowing who you need to talk to is a really good test for yourself.
But how would you recommend people from undergrad to even get into venture? What's a navigatable path or a set of like procedures or some sort of structure for people that are just going into undergrad or people that are first or second years to get into venture?
I think if you wanted to get into venture, it's like why? Because you like talking to founders, you
Yeah.
like being in the entrepreneurship world. Like, why do you want to be an investor? Finding your own thesis in a way,
Mm.
going to events and figure out who's going to be there, what partners are going to be there, and go up and talk to them. I did a lot of cold outreach, and a lot of people didn't answer, but the people who I met at conferences all
Mhm.
answered because they're willing to
Yeah.
talk to a student. I think you really need to leverage your identity. Anything that you can leverage.
I guess from the school resources level, do you think there are clubs or resources that help you get into venture, or do you think it's pretty independent?
I didn't go that route, but I know that there is a VC and private equity club on campus.
Yeah.
And I think also like there's mentoring in that area where you can talk to upperclassmen doing that and just like coffee chatting upperclassmen in your school, because I feel like anyone will accept a coffee chat when
Yeah.
you're in the same school. So I join a club, find an advisor, go to the school that does entrepreneurship, like the Rowe Institute, talk to people in that
Yeah.
area. Just go to a lot of events as
Yeah.
a student. There are a lot of free events you can go to. Just DM them and be like, hey, I'm a student. I can't pay for it. Could I volunteer? A lot of events cost money. So just saying, hey, I'm a student. I can work for a couple hours. If I can get in for free, I would love to come. And just really putting yourself out there. I think you need to be able to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right background, being able to say that you have the right skills and that you will work 110%.
Yeah.
even if you don't have the right.
Do you think people from undergrad, whether they're just going to first year or still an underclassman, may have the right idea of what it means to work in venture, or do you think perception is often skewed?
I feel like I have a very niche way of how I look into venture before I got into it. I feel like how I looked into it was like on like X or just
Okay.
looking at like VC bragging about themselves like meme page of
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
kidding.
Wait,
It's actually the most niche thing ever.
I would watch like YouTube videos of VC salary progression and like,
We are two different
yeah,
people because
yeah.
I would just see all these memes about people working in VC and
Okay.
how overglorified job, like just all of this.
I'm listening.
What idea did you have about venture before you got into
I came from a very strong background wanting to do banking. I know now I can't do it, but I think everyone wants to do investment banking and then exit to either PE or VC or some sort of corp dev. When I think about VC, I think of like specific bankers. I do like that status. It's a nice status. When you hear people around you talk about other classes, I'm like, oh, you got an IB internship. Like, nice. You know what I mean? Or maybe I'm in a different circle. But
Yeah, I know.
same thing about like, whether it's consulting, IB, PE, or VC. I think when you say you work in one of those fields, you get a sense of inherent respect in some way. And not necessarily like it's the only path in finance. And in no way it is, but it's just like, I'm that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about what it means to do VC, I didn't have too much exposure to it in my undergrad years. I just knew a lot of people wanted it and not many people got it. So because not many people got it, I wanted it. Because I couldn't do it easily.
We're chasing that prestige.
Yes, but also because everyone else wanted to either get into venture or go to banking and then exit into being an associate at a venture firm. My perception is based on the questions that people ask me, whether it's coffee chats or when I explain my roles. This is more geared towards people in finance. I think if you're outside of business and finance or tech, people tend to not understand the space as well. But a lot of times when people ask questions about like, how to get in or what it means to work in venture, I do think it is over glorified and overhyped. It is a very particular role and a unique spot to be in. You get exposure to so many things that other roles can't. But I wouldn't say fall for a trap, but I was pushed by the people around me. I think so many people are pushed by people around them because everyone wants to be there and not many people can.
Yeah. I feel like I had a very skew
Yeah.
perception. Listen to a lot of podcasts with
Yeah.
founding partners, and I feel like they just had a very big ego, and these are with people with a lot of money, so they talk about very random stuff in a more chill way, like
Yeah.
how you tweet on X, and that's the
Yeah.
perception I got of venture.
But do people coffee chat you and ask questions?
Ask me questions.
Or do you ever coffee chat you and be like, oh, how did you get into this?
I always say I talk my way through. And
Yeah.
when I copy chat people who are in the industry,
Yeah.
I met like not partners, but on a more principal level,
Yeah.
they would always tell me to go to events and talk to people.
Yeah.
That's how you get the job,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say.
Do you think after being in the space for a little bit, your perception of it has changed, or do you think it's exactly what you thought it
Someone told me once that VCs are like two things. Like it could
Yeah.
be like a hedge fund / private equity firm disguised as a VC firm, and that's why you're not having as much fun, or it could be like a true VC firm. And I feel like my perceptions of it changed a little bit because I didn't realize how financy it would be. Thought it would be a little bit more like vibe checking the founder.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of finance and analytics that go into it as well. So I
Yeah.
think that has changed.
Yeah.
But I think overall, it's kind of what I expect to be, I guess. But I think it's only because I talked to a lot of people before it.
Wow.
I feel like I had realistic expectations in a way.
I see. I see. Wow. I had a completely different perspective. I thought it'd be way more financy and definitely vibe check too, because I think VC is finance, technically.
Yeah, technically it is
So
finance.
I would expect a lot more modeling. When I think finance, I just think of modeling.
Early stage. There's only so much
Yeah,
you can model.
but I always assume the early stage. Or I think for a long time I couldn't differentiate between growth equity and VC. Private equity, you can kind of differentiate. But even in early stage VC, I thought a lot of modeling in different forms. But other than cap tables, I don't think I've modeled a single thing.
Yeah. Do you think this would be your end career? Would you go back to it?
I wouldn't say VC would be my end career, But I think the essence of VC is something that I want to instill my entire life. The essence of VC is partnerships and driving for impacts. When I mean impacts, a lot of VCs can be driven by monetary impacts, but I think I'd want to do impact investing in startups that I believe in.
Like angel investing?
Maybe it could work in a fund too, but I think that'd be a little more niche and tricky on how the logistics would work. When I think about VC, there are so many partnerships that you make, and you are tied to the hip because your money is in a startup, right? That and essentially makes you complete partners. Have to work together to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think working in VC has really broad awareness to the value of social capital and partnerships, even supporting your friends' startups or careers, journeys, or your family, or can pay so many dividends. I want a life where I'm constantly supporting the people around me with whatever resources I can provide, whether that's monetary advice, connections, or any other value. I can't see it ever biting me back in any negative way. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. It's very like a VC mindset also, a venture mindset.
Yeah, I just think it's nice to meet people always. One thing I noticed is now opportunities feel more abundant because I know what people that I can support and people can support me as well. For example, having friends in accelerators, having friends in growth equity, we're all in one chain of communicating deals, looking at perspectives, understanding modeling on the growth equity side, understanding how accelerators work, and looking at startups in these experiences because I'm able to have more social impact and value to the people around me. It's nicer to have so many experiences with people that I can understand and be understood by.
Is it awkward if a friend reaches out with their pitch deck and they want you to help pitch it to your team and you don't really see the potential or it's not advanced enough for you to intro them?
I think the people that I'm in touch with on a consistent basis, it's not awkward at all. It's I love to talk with them, hop on a call and debrief about what they're doing. I think it depends on their expectations. Do they expect a favor or some sort of privilege? And it's hard to navigate because any firm has a ton of voices speaking, unless it's an angel investor. It's not like one person can directly decide major decisions. I think it just depends on like what their expectations are. If they expect you to invest because you're my friend, that's a different story. But if it's like, let me get feedback or get introduced to anyone, that's a different story as well.
What if they want to intro to the team to pitch?
I would love to do that, though. Like, I think on my end too, I wouldn't want to like embarrass myself with a bad pitch.
Yeah,
So like,
a bad source.
if I believe in it, I would gladly do it. If I don't believe it, I would be like, let's talk about it first, or let's think it through just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be the same process of thought that you would go through, or do you think you think differently?
I've had that in the last couple of weeks, but out of our relationship, I would hop on a call and just chat with them.
Yeah.
And then one of them voiced expectation, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I didn't realize these were expectations.
Can I
I'm
ask
gonna
like,
have to circle back.
yeah, ask like what these expectations were?
Like I thought they just wanted to give me
Yeah.
an update on the company, but
Yeah.
it was more like, oh, I'm fundraising right now.
It was like, I'm fundraising. Can I get feedback? Or, I'm fundraising.
No, they didn't tell me they were fundraising until the end of the call.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. I've had like, a couple of friends.
Yeah.
Honestly, with student founders, I feel like it's a lot harder to evaluate the tech.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's in beta, so I feel like
Yeah.
it would be a little bit more embarrassing to introduce the team.
I think there are a ton of brilliant student founders, but tech tends to be a little more behind if you're a student founder. It completely varies.
Yeah, I agree.
People have a strong preconceived notion if you're a student founder, both in the good way and bad. It depends on who you're speaking to, how open-minded they are, and their experiences.
I 100% agree. It really depends.
There are firms that invest in student founders as well, and there are more firms that invest in established founders. So it really depends on the alignment between the investor and the founder as well.
100% agree.
Being part of a like, what?
No, you said
No, I'm like thinking part of being like in a less prestigious school. Let's say you come from a community college or a state school. Do you think that affects like not necessarily your boss, but industry perspectives?
I think if you look at it from two different lenses, like the statistic lens of what unicorns come out of which school, like Stanford, Harvard, like those schools. So I think you have some sort of bias.
Yeah.
When you see that school, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like a lot of unicorns came out
Yeah.
there. I honestly do think there is a wave of people, especially in our generation, that choose not to go to college
Mhm.
and to kind of do their own thing
Yeah.
in that sense, where there are people creating their own path,
Yeah.
and it may not necessarily be in our circle,
Yeah.
but I think they are doing something meaningful
Yeah.
where they are getting respect for it. I think you have to have something to show for it. I don't think that you could just do nothing and expect people to give you respect for it. If you don't go to
Yeah.
college or you don't try as much in your education, you have to do something else to make up for it.
Do you think it's useful to go to college?
I know people go to college and don't do anything with their degree. I think it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
They're going to college for something that doesn't necessarily need a degree or is going to become obsolete, or you're just going through the motions in college and not making the most of it, it can be useless. Any opportunity is a learning opportunity. If you're going to put so much money into a 4-year degree, you might as well make the most of it and take as much as you can. For some people, it can be useless, but for others, it would be life-changing.
What is the most valuable takeaway of being a college student?
I think having that network and just navigating social life in a way. It's like who you know.
Yeah.
In a way. Yes, we did get an amazing education out of
Yeah.
it, but I also think the people that you've met and the alumni and the network that you're now a part of
Right.
is so strong.
Yeah.
It's like who you know for that job role, or who you know when you need help with X, Y, and Z.
Got you.
And those interpersonal skills are also very important that you learn in college. You don't get that community, you don't get that social aspect.
Yeah.
I think social capital is really important, and the skill sets of talking to people and learning how to do that is also really important.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I think social capital and social experience is very valuable, but I think the biggest value of college is how your values are shaped and how your beliefs are shaped through your experiences as a college student. I think being surrounded by so many people your age and being in the time period where you're most open to different ideas and beliefs shapes you so much. Connections and social interactions are useful. That's a fundamental fact that it gives you an opportunity to consolidate and align core values to who you are as a person. So I think whether you go to college or not, it doesn't make you any less, but to go to college is the privilege to have opportunities to be exposed to find yourself.
I think college puts you through difficult situations, or situations where you're being tested on your morals, where either you can fall short or you have them grow stronger.
Were you tested on your morals a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
I'm curious. It's too personal.
Why was I testing my morals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Always testing my morals. I think there's many different ways of saying I'm testing my morals, though. You want to start? No?
There's a bug.
Oh, shoot.
That's fine. Just fine. I feel like I have to be a little bit more vague
Me
about
too.
this
With my nonchalant.
thing. One silly thing of just testing morals, I didn't realize how bad it was about talking bad about people or being negative. I didn't realize how drastic those after effects are when you are being so negative. Either it's about yourself or other people,
Yeah.
how detrimental those effects are. I realized halfway through college that the way I talk about myself or other people also yourself
Yeah.
in a way where it's like if you're talking bad about a person, it's just like showing a lot about your character. And that's a bad thing to do. So that's something I don't do anymore.
Yeah. I have a similar thing too, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a moral thing, but it's like how you approach other people and friendships and your intentions. That's also pretty similar to what we say too. I think there are many times, including myself, like we really had a hard time finding friendships. It's almost ironic. The more you are desperate and the more you want friendships, the harder it is to find friendships, right? Do you agree with that?
I don't think I agree with that.
Really?
I don't think I even know what that means at a level.
The more you want friends, the harder it is to make.
It's like the more you want something, it's not going to happen. You know what? You seek and you don't find it. But if you don't seek, it'll come to you.
Yes, but no. What I mean is when something is your major priority, you sort of dehumanize it of your intention. So what I'm saying in terms of friendship is imagine looking at friendships like, oh, I need friends so badly and I need a friend group, right? How that translates to behaviors is I think I myself would become more inclined to change the way I act in an attempt to find more friends or do things or say things that I wouldn't normally say to try to attract more friends or be in certain situations that I wouldn't want to inherently go to, but simply due to the fact that I want more friends. And I think putting yourself out there isn't bad. It should be encouraged but doing with a sense of anxiety shields other people from getting to know you, right? So while you do meet more people, do they really meet you? Or even when you act a certain way, maybe you get more attention, but is that important? Are they able to understand you?
Yeah, like you're attracting the wrong people because you're not being your authentic self.
Yeah.
Also, when you're not being your authentic self and you're being cognizant of what you're saying and doing, it's like you're not being fully present.
Yes.
And it's like when you're not being fully present, constantly thinking about the future, thinking about the past, you're not being who you really are. You could argue you're not attracting the right people because they're attracted to this curated version of you. But in the long term, it's hard for that to play out.
Yeah.
Short term, yes, but long term, people will see through you.
But then what do you think people who really struggle with friendships should do? You know what I mean?
If you're not being present and you're not being authentic,
So what do you think people should do if it's so important to find friendships and it's consuming you? How can someone gain friendships or find that community they really want?
I think it's really important to be okay with being alone and knowing who you are. I think being independent and being alone is also okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're social human beings that people
Yeah.
need to have people around them.
Yeah.
I think you can take this opportunity as time to find yourself and doing all the things. Like, for example, if you like going to bodies in the farmer's market, doing all those things alone and finding people along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not having your friends or people that try to fit in your life. You're making your own life, and like your friends will come as you put together all the pieces.
But what if you're like, anxious and stressed and overwhelmed? It's not present where you can't even focus on that.
I think on a fundamental level, you're looking at friendships in the wrong way. You're equaling friendships being happy. Like once I have friends, I'll be happy. But let's say you get friends.
Yeah.
Are you going to be happy? You don't know that's going to be true. The reason you are so anxious and you want this group of friends or this support system is because you want to feel okay, safe, happy.
Yeah.
But if you take away all those things, are you going to feel that way?
Yeah.
I think you have to be okay with being alone. And then when they come in, it'll happen.
But like, aren't you just saying just be happy? So isn't that invalidating someone's feelings? I mean, because really stressed, like just like take a deep breath. Like isn't that like, wouldn't that piss you off? Someone like told you that.
I could be invalidating, but it's also like they're putting this friendship or community on a pedestal. It's like, I get this, I'll be happy. And that's not necessarily true. I know someone who really wanted to be in a relationship because she wanted that comfort to feel secure and to be happy. But once she got into that relationship, she realized she didn't feel all those things that she wanted to feel.
Yeah.
And she realized she got to this point.
Yeah.
She would be, but she wasn't.
But then I guess outside of just like reconstructing your thought process and values, are there any actionable insights that can be offered, right? Hey, let's say you're in a place where you know how you should think and feel, but you don't know how to get there. Do you think there are any actions or some sort of structure that you can approach? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, I think that if just try to be social, a lot of the times that people forget basic social skills, like talking to people at the cafe, on the train, or giving people compliments, just having your head up when you walk and not being on your phone and being present. I think you'll be more aware of the world and who you're around.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people lack that in the age of social media and phone, where you just need to go back to the basics of interpersonal skills.
Yes. In terms of actions, when I think about that question, I think about what actions I can take from a place where I'm so out of it and so out of place. In terms of actionable insights, I would say there's a lot of value in like, or this sounds like communication, but not just to other people, but to yourself as well. Whether that's finding someone you can trust to walk you through your thought processes and ask you questions to push and pull you to a place where you can structure and have a good grasp of grounded perspectives and views. I think that's a privilege for a lot of people to have people in lives that can support them in that manner.
ChatGPT
It's pretty good.
talks to ChatGPT every night.
Yeah. Yeah. All my friends use it as like therapy. Yeah.
It works. Like there's AI that is just for that now.
Yeah. ChatGPT gives you the most encouraging. It's like they always start with I understand, like, wow, that must be hard. You know what I mean? And then they're
because
like,
the mission of Chat is to make people happy. So at the end of the day, prompts and how they respond to you is to make you happy.
what if the best response though is to man up or just lock it?
I mean, it depends how people take tough love. Like some people don't take it well, some people do. I think honestly, everyone should take tough love. I think you need a friend that will tell you that.
Yeah.
I think they're very interesting podcasts about navigating human relationships, friendships.
Do you think ChatGPT can ever give tough love?
I think if you prompt it to, if you prompt it being like, be harsh with me. Tell me the reality.
Well,
Yeah.
I would not want that. I don't want Chat. It's tough love.
Do you use ChatGPT as a therapist?
Yeah. I do. But very gently, I'm like, wow. And it always responds like, wow, I get you. And then it says like compliment, a couple compliments, and it walks me through my thought process.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't tell me anything new. It doesn't teach me anything. But it's like, wow, this AI sees me for who I am.
I was really sick one night. It's honestly so good. I was conversing with it, especially when you don't have a doctor on hand. It's like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Because I have X, Y, and Z. Should I go to the hospital? And they're just like, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Drink water every 30 seconds. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Honestly, I think in many situations, it's better than an actual doctor, clinician, or emergency response. Sometimes when I talk to ChatGPT, I don't know how safe it is, but I feel so private. It's only me and Chat. I feel like I can say whatever or articulate really well. I'm not rushed. And because I'm typing, I know it's private and it's on my side.
Yeah. And it knows you so well. You know what I mean? And
It knows it reads all the
so well.
prompts, and it's like, wow, like I know who you are.
Yeah.
Do you think people would you encourage, maybe not as a therapist, but like bringing your problems to ChatGPT?
I guess it depends on, I mean, most problems is fine. I think it's always good to chat with someone. I think ChatGPT is so accessible to so many people where I think you should.
Yeah.
Obviously, the average normal person will be fine using ChatGPT.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like, there's certain situations that I wouldn't use ChatGPT if it's anything serious or anything
What?
like diagnosis. I think like high risk, if it's like suicide or self-harm, I would tend to be more hesitant on using ChatGPT for high risk environments. I'd also not want to use it in diagnosis environments.
Like a psychological thing.
Yeah, so like I wouldn't want to use like ChatGPT to like push ideas or like diagnose me in this or like, do you think I have symptoms of this?
I don't think it'll even do that.
But I think you can prompt it to quasi-diagnose. Not necessarily say you have this, but like, these symptoms kind of look like what you know. I think you can prompt it very well and give me a right response. Using ChatGPT as a trauma dump place hits a certain group of people that wouldn't have access to any sort of site or understanding from anyone in the first place. For people that don't have social groups, that can't pay for support in any way, that don't have that environment where they can get any support, I think a TA is a great tool. Instinctively, I think it would make a huge difference. Being able to reach millions of people that couldn't have the support before is one of the greatest things about Chat.
I agree.
Yeah.
And they're outperforming all the AI companies when there was a big debate.
Yeah.
They would.
I was talking to a friend earlier today about her strong dislike towards AI. She was mentioning how ethical use can be used in ways that are unsafe. For example, using it in war.
War.
Yeah, for example, I'm sure that can be used in ways that are very negative towards society or specific groups as well. For example, if you custom train a model to hate in a group and then launch it or something, I'm sure there's a lot of ways that AI can be used dangerously. But when I talk about using AI as a therapist, I almost seem unrecognized.
I also think that they're not talking about AI itself. It's talking about how human beings interact with AI.
Yeah.
All those things are like human beings are touching it in a way. It's making it bad.
Yeah.
I think the NC itself is a good thing. It's with anything. Like if it's in the hands of a bad guy, it's gonna be bad. Good. But yeah, I can see the perspective. Some people do not like AI.
Yeah. I think on a humanitarian level, what it means to affect people individually, not just in work, but in terms of mental health and well-being, I'm actually becoming more and more fond of it, of using AI.
I really like it. Have you tried Claude?
But for which use case?
Like personal branding.
Like create me a startup or like create me a brand, a marketing?
Yeah, it asks a lot of good questions. And I really like how it's structured. For example, like if I'll be like, oh, help me make this document.
Yeah.
It'll make it for me. They'll give me questions like, oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or can you add more information like this? He doesn't really do that. And I feel like it's a lot more interactive. And you can also share chats with the one on your team.
I tend to use Claude for coding, building designs, web pages, or creating prototypes.
When do you do that?
It's just fun. It can code really well and break things down. You can use it. I've used Manus to build a website, deploy a website. It can code it in complete HTML. It's a little clunky, but you can move this to left to fix it. It's really good. I wouldn't say it's great for building anything accurate or high risk, but it's good for building simple prototypes.
Vibe coding?
Yeah, vibe coding.
Good vibe coding.
I feel like you can vibe code vibe anything. It doesn't have to be code, just anything vibey. It doesn't have just like for the lull or like anything that's for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think